Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm Bonnie Violet, transfemme, genderqueer, spiritual drag artist, digital chaplain.
I'm Pacey, transmasc, non-binary, mental health and recovery advocate.
And welcome to Transjoyboise, where every story, laugh, and act of joy is a stand for our community.
We uplift bold voices, share real experiences, and celebrate trans lives thriving.
Tune in, connect, and spread the joy, because trans joy is
unstoppable.
Yes, I started to lose my voice there for a minute.
No worries, it's all good.
We'll get there eventually.
And we obviously, folks who are watching us, you can see that we do have a guest. Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, yes, I'm Tacoma, local artist, performer, advocate, activist. You might also know me as Rachel Lee Motivated. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, we're really stoked to have you. You were like first on our list to be a guest when we first started and got going with the podcast. So we're excited to get you here. Yes.
Exactly. And I love working with you and stuff in like the advocacy setting. You know, getting to do the event with the ACLU was really nice. Just to see you like in a different setting than I'm used to seeing you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm usually like fake boobs, big heels, you know, so definitely a
which is
change
also great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I definitely got introduced to you through your drag, which is just, I think it's very unique. I think to like you're your own drag queen. You know, I wouldn't say, can't say like, oh, you're like this drag queen or that drag queen, which a lot of people, unfortunately, just say like, oh, you kind of remind me of this or kind of remind me of that. And I'm always I would say almost surprised in some ways because you have such a range of what you do.
Yeah. I think it's a blessing and a curse because like sometimes when I'm looking for inspiration, there's not an easy way for me to look at like, oh, let's see what this artist does because that's very similar to my style. I feel like, you know, humble brag. I have a very diverse range of expression artistically.
And how long have you been doing drag? I know it seems like you're newer on the scene here, so to speak, but I know
I've only not even 2 years. It's gonna be 2 years in August.
Damn.
But yeah. I know, it's been really fun, like probably the best years of my life, honestly, because I had to overcome a lot and there were moments where like it's always been a dream of mine to like have that stage, to have that spotlight. But there were definitely some rough times where I didn't feel deserving or I didn't feel like I loved myself enough. But being able to do drag and being welcomed into such a cool community has really helped light my own flame, I guess.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm curious. And I know that are you from Idaho originally?
I was born in Washington, but I've been here pretty much my whole life.
Right.
Yeah, I moved when I was a year old.
Okay.
If that. But
so this is what you know. Have you always been in like the Boise area or?
Yeah. I've always been in Boise, but I used to live closer to Kuna, like out by the waterfall. I can't remember the name of it. Anyway.
I don't know Kuna very well. Yeah.
My favorite thing when you perform was like in the McCall show, that when the straight men, they love you. Oh my gosh, it's hilarious to me because like they get rowdy about it. And I'm kind of just like flustered by you, and it just that is my favorite part, 100%.
Yes, I really love being able to meet an audience halfway with my art. I feel like that's always one of the biggest goals of mine that I strive for because I have a lot of really crazy ideas in my head, and I know sometimes people have other similar crazier ideas. And so I feel like there's a lot of magic in reading the room and like matching that energy with like every performance.
Yeah. Well, also pushing it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a hard balance sometimes that I don't think all artists, and not that all artists need to do that, but I think one of the things that you do well is that you're able to kind of though meet them where they're at, but then push them a little further, but not in a way that like alienates them from what you're doing. Because there's some things that can be done and you'd be like, okay, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It might even be cool, but you kind of like, I don't know, you can kind of distance yourself from it. Whereas I feel like your drag is a lot more approachable. I don't know if approachable is the right word, but
I'll take it. Thank you. Yes.
I think that art is and always has been a really great way to spread awareness and to, I guess, even just like a form of rebellion, right? And I think that the way that you're able to kind of push the envelope, it's in a way that is, in settings like at the balcony, it's kind of like an acceptable way, but also like, you're getting this message out there that otherwise wouldn't be out there right now. And I think that's so important. And I think it's great that you're able to use the platform that you have with being this performer to help spread this awareness and to help educate people and get people fired up about the things that we need them to be really fucking fired up about. And that's like something that only performers can do, I think. So it's so cool to see such like a prominent local performer really digging their heels in and trying to get people fired up.
Yes.
I love that.
And I know you mentioned you had a lot of range in like your performance, but do you yourself kind of have an idea of like how would you describe your art, maybe your drag, and or maybe like if there's some sort of message you kind of have that's kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Honestly, I really hope that my art and the range of it just reflects how nuanced and varied life can be.
Awesome.
Because I definitely have a lot of really stupid numbers where I'm just trying to get people to laugh. I'm just trying to spread joy. But then there are other moments where I'm really trying to scream at the audience to get them to get a message. And there are times where it's almost spiteful, I feel like. And I don't know, I really just hope that my art helps express my emotions clearly to more people.
When you say spiteful, could you share specific? I'm curious about when you said spiteful. I'm like, ooh, I'm curious.
Well, I mean, it's been very toned down just because I know there's a couple of names I shouldn't name or necessarily stances I shouldn't oppose, especially performing at somewhere like the balcony. And I really, this is a little sneak peek of what I have cooking, but just this year I produced a January 6th show, and I had everyone wear MAGA caps and dressed as fishermen. And then recently I had the What About Straight Pride show, and there were actually a lot of straight people there, which was very funny to see a new audience kind of engage with somewhere they wouldn't go normally. But my newest little project I got cooking up is shaping up to be very divisive, and I'm excited to see what type of art it helps produce.
Oh, nice. I'm intrigued and curious. I'm excited to see what that is.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about it, and I'm very excited for it.
Me too.
It'll be good. I think that's so important, though, to kind of make people uncomfortable in a comfortable setting.
Yeah.
To just kind of because we need more people to be educated on these things and fired up and willing to go out and support these causes. So I fucking love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So yesterday was kind of a rough day, and I kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit, just because I feel like some of the people that are watching this or listening to this will be affected by it. Yesterday was the first day yesterday. It was the first day that HB 264 went into effect, and that was Idaho's bathroom ban, basically, where it's for universities, community colleges, prisons, correctional facilities, and even domestic violence shelters. You have to use the restroom that aligns with the sex you were assigned at birth. Yeah. And people can sue the establishment of a restroom if they see someone that's using the incorrect restroom.
Right.
And I think that, from what I've shared and seen from responses all over the country, is people are just mainly saying, don't go to Idaho, or I'm so glad I got out of Idaho. And people here are really afraid.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, it's terrible, but I feel like everyone in the community just is starting to get even more of this weight on their shoulders of all of these things that are consistently coming out in the news.
Yeah. And I think bathrooms have always been kind of a challenge for us as it is.
Anyway, yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think also with this, like, I think there's a lot of confusion, or like, I think it's really easy to kind of blanket that means all restrooms everywhere in public. I know that initially that was some confusion. And though that isn't true, I think right, exactly. I think there's the but I think it also still, I think for me, it does add an additional layer again of like, okay, maybe it's not at a university or at a correctional facility, but even just using the restroom in public, I think makes me think even more about it again. I mean, I've already moved around my life. Like we just drove to Seattle, and that was some of the first times that I used restrooms, not at places I know. And that's partially because I can't go 8 or 9 hours without peeing.
Right.
Yeah.
That was my goal. But luckily, but it was like every time we stopped, it was like, okay, I need to pee, but what's the situation? You know? And some of them have one use, so it's not that big of a deal. But there were a couple times when I had to go into the women's room, and especially being in like Idaho, Oregon, Washington, like some of the stories that you've heard of, like vigilante, if you will, kind of like people who decide to take it into their own about somebody being in the bathroom that they don't think they need to is in those areas. And so I was definitely a little anxious about it.
We used the buddy system.
We did.
Yeah.
My partner went with you.
Yeah.
It's what's your experience with that?
I think it sets a very dangerous precedent because just because it's not codified for all public restrooms, it gives businesses a legal shield to discriminate against trans people.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I feel like that's only going to drive the fervor even more, especially with the pushback and the bigoted response to a stronger queer presence in Boise.
Yeah.
It also makes it like hard for businesses that are allies to continue to support the community, because if they're facing a lawsuit of $5,000-$10,000 just for giving someone the option to use the bathroom that they choose, how are they going to continue to do that?
Yeah. Well, and then I think there's the whole issue too of just like how is a university going to enforce that? Like, are they going to have security at the entrance of all the bathrooms? Like, are they going to like stop somebody before they get in there? Like, it's I think that's going to be interesting. I think to see how universities and that are going to, and to some degree, well, all it takes is one person in a facility, you know what I mean? Because to me, I think most universities might be like, whatever, we're not gonna, you know what I mean? Like, there's not gonna be any issue because nobody's gonna complain, and that sort of thing. But that's not true. Like, it will happen at some point for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, in the hearings for it, everyone was saying, like in their testimonies, like, how are you going to enforce this? Who's going to police this? Because it is impossible, right? Unless like you're either going to have guards that are doing these invasive searches, like invasive genital searches of the people that you're claiming to protect with this bill, or you're going to leave it up to the public. And we're already seeing the consequences of that nationwide, where people are taking it into their own hands and they're beating people that aren't even like that one woman wasn't even trans, and they beat her unconscious just for being in the women's restroom.
Yeah. That she was told she had to be in. I mean, it was where she wanted to be, but
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of I'm feeling a lot of fear, definitely, just with the enforcement aspect of it, because like you could have, because I notice even allies and even other queer people, we have our own biases, we have our own blind spots. And so like I can't imagine just how blind and like bigoted straight people or like guards or whatever type of enforcement is going to be, especially somewhere like Idaho.
Yeah, it definitely puts the power, if you will, and tells people they have the power to kind of reinforce it as just like a normal citizen, right? To at least report it. but I still think there's some power in that will probably lead to other things as well. Yeah.
I'm not thrilled.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know.
Well, and I think right now, a lot of the universities and stuff aren't necessarily like deep in class, like they're not maximum with students and stuff. So I think probably come fall is going to become maybe more of a, I don't know, like something's going to go down, if you will.
Something.
Yeah. Well, and there was a whole lot of other kind of, like this facilities bill is one that's like specifically for trans people, but there's a lot of other recent laws in Idaho that came into effect yesterday as well. Now they have the firing squad for death penalties, or what do they call it? Yeah, death penalty. Yeah. And then I also know that they removed access to like state funded programs for people who are undocumented, for immigrants who are undocumented. Yeah. And there was a bunch of others. I told myself I was going to remember them all, and I don't remember them all at the moment.
There's too many.
There's
too many to remember.
I saw a person like list like 10, and it didn't even include the facilities one. It was like, and she was like, "Oh, there's so many more." And so I'm curious to see. They also made like, I don't know. It's just a lot of different laws that came into effect for sure.
And the big beautiful bill passed, and like 14 million people are going to lose their health insurance. Yeah. Because they're like gutting Medicare or Medicaid. I'm on Medicaid.
Yeah, I anticipate that I'm going to lose access to Medicaid.
Yeah.
And which will then I'm also a person living with HIV. And so I think that would put me on an AIDS drug assistance program through Ryan White. That would make me eligible because now I'm not eligible through Medicaid. And as it is, at Access Gender Affirming Care, I do it through self-pay right now. It's like a sliding fee to where it's somewhat affordable, but it's a stretch for me to have my gender affirming care, but it's like super important. And so but with my HIV care, it's like $5,000 a month for one medication. For one medication. So I can't do that self-pay. I'm not in a position to like buy my own insurance. I don't have a job in which I get insurance that would cover that. Yeah. And so then I have to rely on the AIDS drug assistance program, which I believe, because they also cut that recently on a federal level, that we're going to start having waiting lists where people living with HIV are going to have to wait months, maybe even longer, to get access to their life-saving medication. So, and then there's that lawsuit right now with the ACLU around access to PrEP. Yeah. There's a doctor in Idaho. I want to look into it a little bit more, but there's a doctor in Idaho along with the ACLU that are suing the federal government for some sort of cuts or denials of access to PrEP in particular for, I think it actually might be for undocumented folks, but I think it's more of a broader stroke of removing access to that as well.
Definitely. With all the news, like feels like overflow, but the more that I read about stuff that comes out, it feels like very malicious synergy.
Yeah.
In like, not only is like HRT and trans healthcare in Idaho already at risk, but now like with Medicaid being gutted, the after effects of the withdrawals from people who just can't afford it anymore are going to go untreated because like queer people don't really have a lot of health insurance. A lot of us don't have health insurance. I know I don't have health insurance, and it's going to make it very scary because it places a lot of power into like employers. I think there's, employers are, I think part of the challenge is why some of us don't get the jobs that we get or get to, works in the fields that we want to is partially because I think being in Idaho in particular, it's not an asset to be a trans or queer person in those sorts of settings. Because in some ways we just create, I think, perception of burden or more problem because maybe they need to have a different bathroom now, or they have to use pronouns or not, which is now even like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I think it's just complicated for some folks and they're just choosing not to fuck with it. Yeah. Instead of like educating or seeking to understand more. They just like shut themselves off and
Yeah.
stick their heads in the sand.
Yeah, and not to say all, because I do think there's a lot of other like smaller businesses and different groups that are actually, I think, even making an effort to hire more people from marginalized communities.
Yeah.
I think for that reason, but
One thing that we've talked about on here a lot is, because I want to get your perspective on this, is the lines that we have for what feels like the moment where you're like, okay, I need to leave. So for me, it was 2 of the 3 have already been crossed. So it's like, and the first one hit and I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll just wait. And then the second one hit and I'm like, okay, so I don't know if I ever actually will leave. But what is the thing for you that will be the moment that you're like, okay, I think I actually have to flee now?
I think I don't think I really have any. I mean, like, being a Black trans person anywhere in America is unsafe. And I already kind of know some of the community here. I've already kind of built up something that feels like it can grow. And I have a lot of friends, like, thankfully they're able to like get to more safe environments, but I'm just like, personally, I don't feel safe anywhere in America, no matter where I go.
Right.
Just because I'm kind of this intersection of like
Right.
all the marginalization in the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It might be nice to be paid more in like a different city and stuff, but with how much I've seen in Idaho, it feels like a fight that I can't ignore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think
Totally.
then maybe this is what I was sensing, but maybe not what you said. But for me too, a big part of, I think, the thing that keeps me here is the people who are still here, who I am connected with and feel, you know what I mean? It's like, yes, we're in this hard spot, but I have like these bubbles and I have these places and this community that I feel really tight to,
Yeah.
that I know in my experience living in other cities, I didn't have that like I have here. And so I think, and that's a huge thing, especially when you're talking about no matter where I go, I'm still going to be a Black trans person. And so whether I'm in San Francisco or I'm in New York or I'm like whatever, I'm still going to deal with those issues, because, you know, just because you live in a larger city doesn't mean you're not going to be impacted in those ways. We hear about it all the time.
Yeah.
So and I think for me too, that's just kind of the aspect of like, well, at least I know. I think some people, what's that thing, like, it's better to like the evil you know is better than, what's that, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, then like the evil you don't.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, I know the gross here. Like, I know how it is. I've been in it. I've survived in it. In some ways, it's not probably impacting me in the ways that it used to, because I've learned to kind of like manage that. I was kind of hearing that a little bit in what you were saying.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I grew up here my whole life, basically. So I've definitely learned to cope with the unique way that Idaho is bigoted.
Yeah.
I would say. But yeah, I mean, I've taken a lot of trips over to Seattle, and that definitely seems like somewhere I want to build up and maybe connect to, but I don't think I would leave Idaho.